Welcome back to TarHeelIllustrated.com. And if you're watching on our YouTube channel, Tar Heel Illustrated, I'm THI staff writer Jacob Turner. And joining me from Asheville tonight, our very own publisher, Andrew Jones. And Andrew, you just saw Carolina lose 69-67 to 17th ranked Texas in the final of the Maui Invitational in Asheville. AJ, we're going to break that down a little bit. First thing I want to talk about, freshman backcourt. We talked a little bit about it last night in terms of some of the growing pains that you're gonna expect those guys to go through. And I think in particular with Caleb Love, we really saw that tonight. Caleb Love, 5 points, 2 for 3 from the 2 for 13, from the field. So poor game from him. RJ 11 points, but besides that, didn't do too much more on his end. We kind of see the inexperience that this backcourt has. There's a lot of potential there, but that was definitely something that they came back and hurt Carolina a little bit tonight.
Caleb had no assists and 4 turnovers tonight. He had 5 turnovers against Stanford. Education. I asked Roy after the game about what maybe the primary thing or two that he learned this week. And we talked so much last week and leading into this about the value of playing 3 games in 3 days against the level of competition that they faced here. And Caleb is probably going to get the most out of it. Because he didn't play as well as he can play and will eventually play, but he struggled tonight. And you could actually see it in his body language at times, from how he went to the bench during a timeout after a certain play, when the ball goes out of bounds, whistle, and just didn't carry himself with the same kind of spark or spunk he did maybe Monday night or last week when they played Charleston. And that's okay, because that is part of the process. I love to talk about the process because it's absolutely a real thing. You don't snap a finger and suddenly a guy's a superstar. Everyone's got their own pace. And for Caleb, there were times this week in particular where it looked like he was trying to do stuff that worked really well in St. Louis last year, but didn't work so well, especially when you go against Stanford and even more so against men, which is what Texas is. RJ also kind of looked like some of the stuff that he was doing always worked in high school. He learned tonight it didn't work as much. He got a lot of his shots were touched. He hit the floor an awful lot. But what I love about him is the fact that he bounced right back up. You know, he got whacked a couple of times. He really got hit hard on the screen, an illegal screen, and a foul was called on Texas. But he's popped right back up. And both of them kind of did. You know, Caleb never really played well. RJ had some pretty good moments. It was part of Carolina's run getting back in the game and making Texas have to go to the wire on this thing. And RJ, by the way, was on the point line. He was on the ball. And even Leaky was on the ball some as well. And Leaky played very well again tonight, by the way, helping those kids out. I think he's going to have to be that figure in the backcourt that kind of helps guide them through some of these moments. So experience is an unbelievable thing. It's a great teacher. And those kids got 3 games of it this week, and they're going to be much, much better. They don't play this weekend. The next game is at Iowa. It's going to be really challenging, a bigger challenge than tonight was. So they have a week, 6 days to learn from this, get better, and go challenge themselves again, which will be another giant lab experiment. This was a lab experiment this week, and Roy got a lot of intel about those 2 kids. So now they know. Now they know where they are. Now they know what needs to improve, and we'll be able to chronicle that improvement as we move forward.
Yeah, exactly. It was a tough night for Caleb Love shooting the ball, but I think ultimately you got to respect him for continuing to shoot the ball. A lot of guys, especially as a freshman, even when their shots aren't going in, can kind of shy away and stop trying to make things happen. He didn't do that, and I think that's going to bode well for him moving forward.
Volume shooters have to be volume shooters.
Exactly.
You can't play out of character. You have to be in character. They recruited him knowing that's what he was. So he's not going to come here and Roy's going to say, you're off tonight, don't shoot.
Stop
shooting.
When
a cleanup hitter's in a slump, you don't sit him down for a week. You go up there and take hacks, because the more hacks you take, the better chance you have everything's going to start falling into place eventually.
Exactly. We talked about Caleb Love's poor shooting, but Carolina overall as a team was really poor shooting the ball in 2 categories specifically: 11.1% from 3 and 56.3% from the free throw line. In a close game like this, shooting that poorly from both of those is huge. I mean, if Carolina just shoots a little bit better from 3 and a little bit better from the free throw line, we're probably having a totally different conversation right now.
They made 1 3.
Yeah.
They missed 11, 14 free throws.
Something crazy.
And that rash of turnovers in the first half, Texas ended up scoring 15 points off of turnovers. That's the game. As much as there were things that the Tar Heels didn't do well tonight, that's the game right there.
Exactly.
And so the fine line between winning and losing is very, very narrow. And we saw with the free throw shooting thing, They were 1 of 7 at one point.
Mm-hmm.
They were 5 of 13 at one point. Free throw shooting is a weird, contagious thing. I've never been able to figure it out in all the years I've been doing this. All the different teams I've covered, even NBA teams. When I've covered, I covered the Bobcats before they went back to be the Hornets again. They would go through stretches with 5 guys and be missing from the line.
Yeah, NBA players too. Yeah.
Well, that happened tonight, and yet the Tar Heels were still in the game. Matt Coleman needed to hit a tough shot 15 feet out. He was the best player on the floor tonight.
Yeah.
In order for Texas to win, when Carolina's freshman guards played like freshmen, when they had 1-3, when they missed 14 free throws, and they gave Texas 15 points on points off turnovers. Mm-hmm. One of the reasons is because Carolina was dominating on the glass, 50-32 against Texas on the glass. That's a constant. That's going to be there all year, and that nearly bailed them out of everything else. So just imagine, I'm going to lead into the third thing with this right now, Jacob. Imagine when those other things move up a little bit. When they do, the rebound is still going to be there. This is going to be a good team, but it's going to take time, and it's a process. And sometimes there are going to be some nights where Twitter's going to be angry, and Twitter was angry tonight.
Oh, yeah.
There were a lot of things tweeted at some of the things I was putting out there. It's like, look, I understand, but this just deal with it. Growing pains are like this, and that's what they're doing.
Exactly. I got some arguments going on in my mentions right now, not two as well. So we're seeing it tonight for sure. AJ, good segue though into the last thing I want to talk about before we close this one out. 3 games, 3 days. I mean, Roy Williams talked about how COVID is before the season, they weren't really allowed to have any scrimmages, weren't really allowed to have any preseason games, if I can get that word out. Now Carolina gets to play those 3 games in 3 days. What did you learn about this team, and how much of this was a valuable experience for them? Because when it comes down to it, you got so many freshmen out there that just needed to play, and they got that in a high volume this week.
Well, there was one stretch tonight where they had 5 freshmen on the floor, and the one that wasn't was Caleb Love.
Mm-hmm.
That was interesting. What I learned is that they have a lot of really nice parts. A lot of them are young. They need to grow up. You could see sequences with Daron Sharp or Walker Kessler where they're adapting to playing at this level. They're not plug and play Tyler Hansbrough guys yet. Very few ever have been, and very few ever will be. With Kerwin Walton and Puff Johnson, you can just kind of see it's just going to take time. They got to get on the floor and play some. They got to sit on the sideline and watch. They got to go through practice. They got to go through film. They're going to be nice, solid players here at North Carolina. And that backcourt's going to be really good. They're going to be really good in time. So they've got pretty much what they need with those freshmen. What I've learned about the 4 returning players is Andrew Platek had his worst game tonight. But, when they made runs in the first 3 games, Andrew was on the court. Andrew's going to be a situational guy. Some nights he may play 20 minutes. Some nights like tonight, he may play 5 or 6. It's all going to depend. Armando Bacot is definitely a better player than he was last year. He's a more efficient player than he was last year. Mm-hmm. He doesn't allow a negative play on one end affect him on the other end. So I think he's going to be okay. And we're going to see Roy use that Sharp Bacot rotation in interesting ways. Last night, Sharp played the last 5 minutes of the game. Tonight, Bacot was on the floor at the end because they needed offense and they weren't getting anything from the perimeter. They had to run stuff through the post. And Armando's got a lot more post moves right now than Daron does. And I think with Garrison, tonight was actually a positive. You and I talked off not doing a podcast, Jake, about how I said, a lot of people are underscoring the fact that Garrison adjusting to everybody else was going to be a thing.
Yeah.
And to think that he was just going to start the season being the same guy that was putting up 18, 20 a night in the ACC play last year, that's totally different because the composition of the team is different. The way that they're playing is a little bit different right now. Mm-hmm. And so Garrison's kind of figure out how he fits in. And he took a big step forward tonight doing that. I thought he was assertive when he got the ball in the block. He missed a couple shots that were beautiful. I mean, fundamental stuff. You go to camp, send your kid to camp in the summer, they're going to run video, stuff like that. So I think it was good that Garrison had a nice game tonight, started to feel some comfort. Jacob, they got a lot out of this trip. They went 2-1. They could have gone 1-2. Who knows? I mean, they would have had to play someone like Indiana today. That would have been a tough game to try to get 2 wins here. So they got 2 wins. They played 3 games that they got an awful lot of experience and valuable education, big, giant lab experiment for Roy Williams. And when he and the staff get together tomorrow and talk about the team, they start looking at more of the film and breaking things down. each individual player. They're going to know so much more about these kids now than they did a week ago. So that's invaluable. And he's going to push the right buttons. He's going to get them working on the things they need to work on. And eventually this will come together. It may not happen next Tuesday in Iowa City.
No, it's going to be
That's going to be a real big challenge, but they'll be better for having the experience. I think they made progress this week, even if it doesn't look like it in the box score, even if it didn't always look like it on the floor. They had to go through this to get to where they're going to go. And this is a lot better than playing Elon and NC Central and all those kinds of teams. Now, no disrespect to them, but if you're playing Patsies, they wouldn't have learned what they learned this week playing Vegas, Stanford, and tonight Texas.
Exactly. I mean, I love the ceiling of this team. I think it's super high, and I think they got a lot. I totally agree with you, Edge. I think they got a lot out of this week in Asheville, and going to be a lot better for it. But Carolina losing in the finals of the Maui Invitational, 69-67 to the Texas Longhorns. That's going to do it for us, guys. Thanks for joining me, AJ. And as always, guys, be sure to like this video. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and share it if you've enjoyed it. We'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.
Thanks.